Okay, here's the first thing I did with the case. Now, if you remember from when we were doing the teardown on this particular radio, I saw the holes here, but there was no bracket. Well, guess what? I was able to fill the holes, and I had some extra screws. I was able to put in an extra spare tube bracket, which is actually kind of desirable. I don't have that on my personal H500 that I've had for 23 or 24 years or so. So that's actually kind of nice to have, I think. So I have that on there. I have the bracket, which also holds the suction cups. And I was able to put these in like a soapy warm water. And it's kind of hard to see in the video here. I've actually made them a little bit pliable. I don't know if I'd want to use them, but they're there. And why ain't that going in? Oh, there it is. I just have to get it snapped in there. There we go. And then we also have the clip here for the manual, which I don't have, unfortunately. And I've also put down the snaps and stuff back here. So now I can close. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the hinge door back on top of this. So this is going to be a little tricky, but let me show you what's going on here. So here's our nice cleaned and detailed top, and ultimately it's going to sit kind of like that. Okay, so I've got to get the bracketing out so it all lines up. Let me do that. Okay, that's that side. Get this for the other side. Okay, the bracketing's all there. So now this little clip that's going to go on the chassis, once the chassis is in here, goes in through here. And what I'm doing is I'm pulling the wire down. Okay, and where you really want to end up is just get the screw holes lined up here. Got one there, and then get this lined up here, and then you see what I'm doing is I'm pressing the wire down so it sits in that little trough, and that's really important. That's going to go there. So while I got this here, let me just get the screw started. Okay, and a total of 4 screws. Okay, now I have this all together. However, I didn't make it real tight. Okay, we don't want to put the top over this yet, because as you can see here, I just have these 4 screws in there, and they're just a little bit loose. Now you see that? How that's a little bit loose? So this is all adjustable. So what you'd want to do next is to put the bracket back on here on the front, the latch, and then we'll get the latch on here, and that way we can line this up so that when it opens and closes, there'll be a minimum of interference fit here, and it'll fit, you know, it'll look real nice. Okay, I've put the latch on, the upper and lower latch on, and I've already made the adjustment. So let me show you what I did. But first, when I took this guy apart, this guy was all loose because I went in here with a razor knife, if you remember that, pulled this out so I get to the screws, and unfortunately this screw got a little bit of a tear in it. So what I did was, after I tightened the latch down back onto the lid with the 2 Phillips screws, I took just a little cotton swab like this and put a little carpenter screw, you know, or Elmer's glue, put that in behind it on both sides, and I just took a rag and I wiped that off. So this will dry and then it'll be just fine. Now I can take this and flip it over, and what you want to do is, before you make the adjustment, is to get the latch in there. Now this latch is adjusted pretty good, and it's going to be on there and it's going to stay closed. There's actually a little bit of a tab that comes out on the latch, that when the latch is all the way down, see, when it's up like this, the latch disappears and then you can pull up on it. But once it's down, and get it in there, now it'll stay locked and will not open up until you pull on the latch, and then she opens up. So what you want to do is get it closed, get it latched, then find out where your positions are up here, and then take your Phillips screwdriver and just tighten these 4 screws down that we had left loose, and it should be just fine. A little bit easier. And we'll just lay this on here for now. And then what I've got to do now is to go back underneath and then find the adjacent holes with the screws that I took out of here, and then screw this top piece back in place. Now when you go to do this, make sure you've done what I've done here, and that this wire is going to be in this channel right here. Make sure that's in there real good before you lay this on here. And that's very important for two reasons. One, it's going to affect the wave magnet operation on the broadcast band. If you pinch or break that wire, the reception is going to be terrible or non-existent. And the other thing is that, so this piece here lays nice and flat across the top. Okay, I have the radio kind of laid on its back right now, and this is the piece right here on top. So there were basically 5 screws that held this piece down to the top of the piece on the case of the radio. There's this. Well, let me get my pointer out. 1, 2, 3. There's one up here and then one here. So these 5 holes, we're going to put in these screws back in to hold that down. Okay, just like a poker player, I got those 5 screws all in. We're all in on these 5 holes. Now we've got the holes here, and that's for the handle. So this might be a good time to put the handle in as well. So the next step is let's put the bezel back in place. Okay, and if you remember straight, we got 4 screws that have to go in here that are a little bit on the long side, such as this one here, so you can see how well the camera's picking it up. So you got 4 of these that go on top, and then 3 short ones on the bottom. And just put them in until they're snug. Don't over tighten them, because that's how this beautiful reverse painted bezel cracks. So just snug them up and don't over tighten them. I would start by putting the ones toward the middle in first and then work your way out. Okay, well here's the radio with the wave magnet back on it. I think it came out looking pretty good. And one of the things I had to do was I had to repaint the lettering where it says Zenith and wave magnet on there, because initially when I had that in the sink, I said when you spray with simple green, don't leave it on there for more than 15-20 seconds. And I had it on there for about 45 seconds, and all I did was rinse it off. I didn't even scrub it with a sponge or a towel or anything, and the lettering came off. So what I did to redo it was I took some Model Hobby white paint, and good old when you put together your model planes and cars when you were a kid, remember testers? So I basically used a cotton swab and went inside all the letterings, and then I quickly wiped off the excess. And once I was done, I polished the whole wave magnet up very, very, very lightly with some Novus number 2. And that's the result. I think it looks pretty good. So now I think we're pretty much ready to put the chassis in the radio, or in the box. And even though we removed it out of the front, we had to put the front pieces together just to make sure everything was fitting correctly, and up here on top as well. So we didn't put the antenna on yet for the shortwave. So while that's off, it'll be pretty easy just to get the chassis to slide in here, and then we'll locate that and then screw it down. Okay, now if you remember, there were 2 screws that held the chassis down to this piece of wood here. There was one right here toward the front, or the back, very back of the radio, where I got my hand right now. And the other one was diagonal. It was to the front of the radio, all the way up about 2.5 inches or so from the 2 inches from the edge of the radio from the side here. So I have them in, and they're just loose. They're hand tight until we can get the chassis centered. So let me show you how I do that. Okay, so here's a couple things you can do. One thing is, now you can look at basically the tone organ down here, your 1952 graphic equalizer, and just have 2 switches on the left hand position, 2 on the right, And what you want to do is just eyeball it, and you can center the gap like that there. Okay. And another thing you can do is just take the two knobs and just go ahead and put them on. And that will also help to have things centered, like I got here. Okay, that's one knob. Okay, there's a tuning knob. So I'd say, just from the looks of that, that's probably about as centered as you can get. And now you can lock in those two screws in the back. This hole right here, this is actually connected to the band switch tower right here. And we got to provide some support for that. But the screw is missing. And guess what? I went through my screw pile and I found not just any screw, but I actually found the screw that's supposed to be in there. You know, sometimes it's just better to be lucky than to be good. Get that in the hole and snug it down. Okay, and that's in there. Last but not least, now it's time to install the wave rod antenna. I have the wave rod antenna kind of put back together, clipped together. Okay, you want to make sure, you see how this has that little white tip there? You want to make sure you've got that directly behind you for right now, because this ring that's on the antenna right now, you want that to be open and facing the front of the radio. So what you want to do is put this into the hole where the antenna's going to stick up. Set this on here, and it's kind of hard to do with one hand. And first of all, you want to just eyeball and make sure that the antenna itself is sticking up a little bit. I'll give you a little bit of an idea. So maybe about 1/4 of an inch, 3/16 of an inch sticking up. And what will happen is, if you got that lined up correctly, when you twist the tip and you turn that white part around and it matches that arrow, now that we straighten up the top, that tip will just pop right up and you can then extend the antenna. Okay, you got the antenna secured and in place, and all we got to do now is just take the wire from the antenna. We'll just connect that back up to the radio. And now guess what? The radio's done. Well, boys and girls, there it is. It's finally come together and it's done. I think it came out rather nice. And I hope yours did too. And it's just such a cool looking radio. Just something you don't see every day. So, anyway, I hope you enjoy your radio. And works pretty decent too. Right now I have the battery pack in there. My homebrew battery pack, my 9 and 90 volt battery pack. And right now I have the radio on the 19 meter band. And I'm just using the wave rod antenna in my basement with nothing connected to it. It's just, this is the only antenna. Can you hear that? That's WWV on 15 megacycles. So anyway, well, it took 9 videos and now we're done. So enjoy your radio and please feel free to comment. Tell me about your project and how it came along. So anyway, it's me and I'm saying goodbye, boys and girls, and don't throw those old radios out unless they're total absolute junk. Take care. Bye! Here's the happy new owner.
Let's put it on YouTube.